I'm Isla, born and raised in the quaint town of Harrow, a place small enough that everyone knows your name and nothing remains a secret for long. After high school, I ventured off to college, and soon after graduation, I plunged headfirst into the retail industry. My passion wasn't just in selling products. It was specifically in lingerie. Driven by this passion, I worked tirelessly and eventually became the owner of a chain of lingerie furniture ranging from cozy shops to upscale furniture. I dedicated my life to my work, and I excelled at it. However, despite my professional success, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was missing in my life. That's when Henry entered the scene. It all started with a simple ping, a friend request from a man clad in a sharp suit with an even sharper gaze, according to his profile picture. Curiosity piqued. I accepted his request and soon discovered he was a lawyer, which explained the fancy suit. Henry first reached out one evening while I was busy with my accounts, with a message as simple as it was intriguing. His subsequent texts were filled with wit, and he had a knack for making me laugh after long, tiring days. Our conversations ranged from silly topics, like terrible pickup lines, to deeper, more meaningful exchanges. His humor was a perfect match for mine, making our chats a highlight of my day. One night, he suggested we meet in person for a casual coffee to match faces to our messages. The first time we met was at a favorite local cafe of mine, known for its strong coffee. Henry was even more impressive in person than his professional profile had suggested. The connection was immediate. We talked for hours about everything from business to personal dreams, and Henry was genuinely interested in all I had to say. After a year of getting to know each other, Henry decided to take our relationship to the next level. On a chilly evening, as I was locking up one of my stores, he appeared unexpectedly. His breath visible in the cold air, he nervously presented a small, elegant box. His eyes were earnest as he began to speak, clearly nervous about what he was about to say. We had been thriving together, just you and me. Recently, it occurred to me that perhaps it's time we considered making our relationship permanent. As I stood there with the keys to the store still in my hand, Henry, with that irresistible lopsided smile that always sent my heart racing, popped the question. Isla, marry me. Let's stop beating around the bush. I want you by my side forever. My heart hammered in my chest, overwhelmed by a whirlwind of emotions. Marriage. Was I truly ready? Yet, as I gazed into his sincere eyes, everything felt perfectly aligned. Yes, I whispered, a mixture of excitement and nervousness in my voice. Yes, I'll marry you. However, Henry's expression shifted to a more serious tone. There's something else we need to discuss, he said, the word prenup pouring over me like a cold shower. Really, Henry? Is that necessary? He quickly tried to reassure me, gripping my hands gently to calm my shaking. Isla, it's not about trust. It's practical, especially given my career as a lawyer. I've witnessed too many difficult separations not to be cautious. It's really about protection for both of us. What kind of protection are we talking about here? I inquired, a blend of curiosity and worry in my voice. Henry retrieved some documents from his briefcase. It's simple. If either of us strays, the cheater forfeits their assets to the other. It's straightforward and fair. You know I would never betray you, Isla. This is just a precaution. Taking a deep breath, I tried to absorb everything. The romantic proposal now intertwined with the reality of legal considerations. It wasn't the engagement scenario I had envisioned. But life with Henry was full of surprises, and perhaps this was just another unique chapter. Looking at the papers then back at him, I saw his genuine earnestness. All right, I'll consider it. But just so we're clear, Henry, I don't plan on ever giving you a reason to use this against me. That's all I'm asking, he replied, visibly relieved. We celebrated that night at a quaint restaurant, the atmosphere perfect, the food exquisite, and Henry's charm making me momentarily forget the complexities of our conversation. As we walked under the stars later that evening, Henry drew me close. You know I love you, right? No document can change that. I rested my head against his chest. I know, Henry. I love you too. Let's just make sure this prenup doesn't come between us. Okay? He kissed my forehead. It won't. Promise. A few days later, after consulting with my own lawyer, I signed the prenup. It felt strange to sign something so focused on the potential end of our relationship when it had barely begun. But love is a gamble, and I was all in, hopeful that my faith in Henry was well placed. We were the couple everyone admired, always sharing laughs and secret whispers at gatherings. But as the months passed, subtle changes began to emerge, a gradual chill forming between us, hinting at deeper issues yet to surface. Several weeks after our shopping trip, I found myself browsing a collection of fragrances in a perfume store, engaging in light conversation with the sales manager about the different scents. After we left, Henry seemed visibly upset. As we walked away from the bustling mall, he questioned me sharply. "Who is that?" Confused by his tone, I replied, "Just the sales guy. I was asking about the perfumes."
"Why?"
His response was curt, his eyes piercing. "You seemed really into him," he accused. "Are you serious right now?" I stopped in my tracks, shocked by his insinuation. "I was discussing perfumes, Henry. What's gotten into you?" He scoffed and shook his head, dismissing the conversation as we continued walking. "Forget it. Let's just go home." However, that incident marked the beginning of a troubling pattern. Henry grew increasingly jealous and cold, often sulking or making sarcastic remarks whenever I interacted with other men. His behavior also changed at home. He became more withdrawn, frequently buried in his laptop or phone, leaving me to dine alone most evenings. Unable to bear the growing tension, I confronted him one evening in his study. "Henry, we need to talk," I said firmly, closing his laptop to capture his attention. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Isla, you don't understand the pressure I'm under with work. And when I see you laughing and chatting with other men, it gets to me. It feels like you don't respect our relationship enough to keep your distance." The conversation escalated, filled with unspoken frustrations and hurt feelings. The situation worsened when I heard from friends that Henry had been spreading rumors about me flirting with other men. "Henry, you've been talking about me behind my back? Telling people I flirt with other guys?" I confronted him, my anger peaking. "It's not like that," he attempted to explain, albeit poorly. "I might have said something, but it's only because I see how they look at you." "I can't believe this," I interrupted him, infuriated. "You have no right to spread lies about me. You're supposed to support me, not tear me down." Following that heated argument, things between us cooled somewhat. One morning, I found a note from Henry on the kitchen counter. His usually neat handwriting appeared rushed. "Isla, let's try to start over. Meet me at the Grand View Hotel, room 181 at 7:10 p.m. tonight. Let's put the past behind us and move forward." The note was unexpected. Perhaps this was his attempt to reconcile. With a mix of apprehension and hope, I decided to go. The day was a haze. My thoughts were fixated on the evening and the possibility of a new beginning. Could we really start over? As evening approached, hope fluttered in my chest, a delicate bird daring to take flight. In a fit of rage, Henry confronted me as soon as I walked through the door. "So, the prodigal wife finally returns," he bellowed, his voice thick with disdain. "We need to talk, Henry." "Something terrible happened tonight," I implored, my voice quivering with urgency, trying to bridge the chasm of misunderstanding between us. But he was deaf to my pleas. With a dramatic gesture, he slammed a set of photographs onto the table. "Then explain these," he demanded furiously. Trembling, I picked up the photos. They depicted me in a hotel room, entangled in a compromising position with a stranger I couldn't recognize. My heart plummeted. "Henry, I swear I don't know this man. I've never seen him before. Something bizarre happened tonight that I can't explain," I stammered, panic rising. Henry's scornful laugh chilled me to the bone. "A monstrous mistake, or simply your monstrous actions. Marrying you was the actual error," he declared coldly. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I steeled myself, determined to remain composed. "I didn't do this. You must believe me," I pleaded. But Henry was relentless. "Believe you? Why should I? You're nothing but a liar and a cheater, and I'll ensure you won't get a dime from me. I'm taking this to court. I will take everything, He vowed venomously, grabbing his pre-packed suitcase and leaving with one last venomous look, slamming the door behind him, the sound echoing through the empty house. Devastated, I collapsed onto the sofa, my body racked with sobs as a throbbing pain consumed my head, blurring my thoughts. It was more than a headache. It was as if a fog had descended over my brain, making the events of the night seem hazy and disjointed. Then it struck me, the wine. I had had just one glass, but the overwhelming dizziness and blackout were inexplicable, too severe for such a small amount. Desperate for answers, I called my friend Riley, a nurse. Riley, something's wrong. I had one glass of wine, and then everything went dark. I woke up hours later, and now Henry has these photos. It doesn't make sense, I explained hastily. After a moment, Riley responded, Isla, it sounds like you might have been drugged. You need to go to a hospital or a lab and get tested immediately. Tell them everything, especially about the wine and your symptoms. I drove to the lab in a daze, my mind racing to piece together the fragments of the evening. At the lab, I relayed my ordeal to the technician, who solemnly took several vials of blood for testing. Days later, a heavy letter from Henry landed with a thud on my doorstep. My hands shook as I opened it. My fears were confirmed. The letter, filled with cold, formal language, stated that Henry was suing me for infidelity, aiming to strip me of everything based on our prenuptial agreement. The trial was set for a month from now. Panicked, I called my lawyer, Jacob. Isla, come to my office. We need to strategize, he said, his voice a small comfort amid the turmoil. I drove to Jacob's office, my mind teeming with every possible scenario, each more daunting than the last. As I pulled into the parking lot, my resolve hardened. I had to fight back. In the familiar presence of Henry, I noticed him walking with a young man, the same individual from the photographs that had been used against me. Instinctively, I reached for my phone and began recording their interaction. I captured them exchanging an envelope, which the young man quickly concealed inside his wallet. A rush of adrenaline surged through me as I grasped the potential importance of what I had just recorded. At Jacob's office, I shared the video. His reaction was immediate, his eyebrows raised in alarm as he watched the secretive exchange. This is significant, Isla. It looks highly suspicious. I think it's time we involve a senior investigator, Jacob suggested. Promptly, Jacob contacted his friend Wyatt, an experienced senior investigator, who agreed to take on the case. Wyatt wasted no time, following the young man and investigating his background. Within days, Wyatt summoned us to his office with an update. I've spoken to the young man, Wyatt began, his tone grave. He revealed that he was an actor down on his luck, hired by my husband to impersonate someone close to me. He even disclosed that my husband had orchestrated everything, including drugging me. While we were discussing, an email notification sounded on my phone. It was the results of my recent blood test. Opening the attachment, my heart skipped a beat as I read the results. Positive for a potent sedative, confirming Wyatt's findings. I handed my phone to Jacob, who read the results and looked up, his expression firming with determination. Isla, this is the evidence we need. Not only can we defend you with this, but we can also confront Henry effectively, he declared, suggesting we keep everything confidential until the court date to catch Henry off guard. A week had passed since the incident, and I was back at my lingerie store, trying to distract myself from the impending court date. It was a typical afternoon until Henry appeared, introducing me to Nova, his new fiancée. He boasted about their engagement, though his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Nova, appearing too young and perhaps naive about Henry's true nature, looked at me with a blend of curiosity and skepticism. Henry couldn't resist provoking me, claiming he would soon take ownership of my store. Nova observed all this with growing doubt. Despite wanting to warn her, I remembered Jacob's advice to remain silent until the hearing, so I simply offered a restrained smile and retorted, "We'll see what the judge decides, Henry." The court date arrived sooner than expected. The courtroom was filled with a tense atmosphere as Henry, representing himself, adjusted his tie confidently, ready to make his opening statement. "Ladies and gentlemen," he started, his voice steady and convincing, Today you will witness the true character of a woman. Henry, who stood before the court, accused his wife Isla of not only violating their marriage vows but also attempting to undermine the integrity of their household with her deceitful actions. As he presented the photographs on the screen behind him, the courtroom buzzed with whispers. He claimed that Isla had betrayed her commitment to fidelity, showcasing images from a hotel room that left the audience murmuring. For several agonizing months, Henry had endured the torment of suspecting Isla's unfaithfulness. The photographic evidence, now displayed, confirmed his deepest fears. He paused dramatically, allowing the gravity of his revelations to impact the listeners. Approaching where I was seated, his gaze fixed on me, Henry argued that Isla portrayed herself as an innocent victim trapped by unfortunate circumstances. However, his scathing tone and carefully chosen words painted a different picture. He argued emphatically that Isla was not a victim, but the architect of the collapse of their marriage. His performance was calculated, with strategic pauses and pointed looks at the judge, each sentence delivered with the precision of a seasoned attorney. He asserted that Isla's actions had not only damaged their marriage irreparably, but had also eroded the foundational trust that sustains any relationship. As Henry's speech reached its dramatic climax, he made a fervent appeal for justice. In contrast, lawyer Jacob, representing Isla, stood with a composed demeanor, his briefcase containing the evidence that would vindicate Isla. Addressing the court with a firm and authoritative voice, Jacob shifted the narrative. He defended Isla's honor and exposed a pattern of deception by her husband, Henry. As he gestured toward the back of the courtroom, an actor, hired by Henry, entered, causing a ripple among the spectators. Jacob invited the actor to recount his involvement, and with noticeable nervousness, the young man confessed to being hired for a role he initially thought was a mere prank. His shaky admission added a significant twist to the unfolding drama in the courtroom. I hadn't fully grasped the gravity of the situation unfolding until Jacob solemnly presented the blood test results in court. These results confirmed that Isla had been incapacitated without her consent, drugged by substances she was unaware of consuming. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs as everyone began to understand the severity of the allegations. Jacob, with a stern tone, then explained that this was not the first instance of Mr. Clark using such underhanded tactics. He meticulously detailed evidence from Henry's previous marriages, showing a pattern of behavior that had consistently led to his financial gain at the expense of his ex-wives. As Jacob wrapped up his arguments, the evidence's impact was unmistakable. He requested the court not only dismiss the fraudulent claims against Isla but also grant her fair compensation for the hardships she had endured. The judge considered the presented evidence thoughtfully before announcing her verdict, siding with Isla. The prenuptial agreement was voided. I felt a rush of relief, my eyes welling up with tears, not just from the legal victory, but from the clear vindication Isla received. The judge then awarded Isla $610 in damages. Henry's face turned pale, his future shattered in front of him. His fiancée, who had been in the courtroom, rushed out briefly, only to return to thank me for bringing the truth to light, and then left Henry for good. News of the trial spread rapidly, the sensational details grabbing headlines. Henry's professional reputation took a nosedive. He lost his license to practice law. This revelation encouraged his ex-wives to sue him, uncovering a history of deceit that left him both financially and socially bankrupt. As I locked up my office one evening, watching the sunset cast long shadows across the floor, I reflected on the ordeal. It had been a tough fight, filled with despair and indignity at times, but it stood as a testament to resilience and the pursuit of justice.